This is Talk Sport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. It's a massive FA Cup weekend here on Talk Sport, and the one man who you know is going to supply the magic of the FA Cup is Mr. Mike Porky Parry. He's here with me, and a very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
A very good morning to you, Michael. And yes, you're absolutely right. As we count down towards the weekend, of course, Everton's game is 5:30 in the evening, so a lot of the cup ties will have been played by then.
They will.
But more to play over the weekend, because, of course, we've got 5 commentaries here on Talk Sport, but really looking forward to what I regard as world's greatest sporting competition.
Yes, well, I mean, you've been spending a lot of time up at Stevenage. I saw a YouTube clip of you being interviewed, and I have to say, and I don't mean to be unkind here, but
you're going to
they
be.
do say on television you put on like an extra £10. It looks like you put the £10 on around your chin.
No, that you see, this is a little bit unkind. I don't spend a lot of time in Stevenage, but I did go up there to say hello to the guys because I've been asked to take part in a charity competition at half-time, which will involve me trying to kick a ball through...
Really?
Yes, kick a ball, yeah. Through a tyre hanging off the crossbar at half-time in front of a full crowd of people. So I thought I'd better...
Have you accepted this challenge, have you?
Of course I've accepted the challenge.
From how far away?
From the penalty spot.
From the penalty spot?
Yeah, so the ball's on the penalty spot and there's a tyre hanging off the bar and I've got to kick that ball through the tyre. I don't see a huge problem. Actually. I mean, you've got to remember last time I was on a pitch with a full crowd was at Old Trafford when I scored a penalty.
And how did you do there?
I scored against the England under-18 goalkeeper. The captain of the other team playing against me was Alvin Martin, a seasoned England international who managed to miss. But I didn't.
So what was your secret then? Do you give him the eyes? What do you do?
No, my secret was I decided to put the ball right down the goalkeeper's throat. I'm clever enough to know a goalkeeper will move. I was smarter than the average bear. I booted it right down the middle. The goalkeeper moved, bang, in the net. If there hadn't been a net, it would have been in Rochdale.
So you must have thought you were going in one direction or another then. Did you do some kind of shimmy?
No, not at all. No, I skipped on the edge of the area, ran towards the ball, struck it with lethal force, and it literally nearly took the roof out of the net. You know, it was a very, very
now, that I would
shot.
like to have seen, but I didn't see it, so I'll just have to take your word
there is
for
a video
it.
of it. I can supply you with the video.
Right, well, I'll go and have a look for that. So this is all going to happen at half-time, around about... It's going to be dark, isn't it?
Well, they do have floodlights, actually, at Stevenage. You may not have
noticed.
I
know they have floodlights.
Yeah,
but
have you ever been to a football match at night?
Yes, I have, yeah.
Yeah, they do have floodlights.
I know they have floodlights, but it makes the sort of the vision slightly different, doesn't it?
No.
If you're lining up a shot to go through the middle of a tyre, which is very, very difficult.
Hang on, how can you make it different?
Because the light is not the same as daylight, clearly.
It's exactly the same as daylight. In fact, it's better than daylight. Floodlights in this day and age are built to replicate daytime vision.
Yeah, but they don't, though.
Oh, they do. They multiply it by 10.
Because if you play golf, for example, under floodlights, which some people now do, or if you ski under floodlights, it's a completely different experience. You don't see everything in the same way that you see when it's daylight.
Well, I'm sorry, you're doing a football ground. In fact, Everton in 1970, when they built the new stand, they installed new floodlights on the edge of the stand rather than having stanchions. They were the first top-tier club to do this.
Is that what Stevenage have got as well, then?
I'd imagine they would have by now, and they are non-glare. So, for instance, if a goalkeeper goes up and the ball's coming out of what you would call the sun being the floodlight, you don't get any visual impairment from the dazzle behind the ball.
Right.
It's impossible.
So you've done a lot of research into this.
Oh, a lot of research.
Are you going to be practising? Because presumably over the next couple of days you should practice trying to kick a ball through a tyre.
No, I won't be doing that.
I'll be happy to help you if you want.
No, I want to get to the original point of your insult to me. You know, the original insult started even before I came on air about you telling me I look a little heavier.
Well, you do, because it's not your fault, because the camera always puts weight on you.
No, excuse me. I'm a polite person. I go to Stevenage to meet the guys there. What do? I get myself groomed on the day. Part of the grooming process is I have my beard,
cut,
hirsutely
shaved.
What's the word I'm looking for? Trimmed. It's a word from behind the glass. Thank you. Trimmed to a very nice level.
I think you should have grown it more, because then you would have disguised the chin better. Grown one of those big, like Tim Howard style.
Well,
beards.
let's put it this way, Mike. If I had a face like yours, I would go like monkey style and
this
have
is
as
not
much
about
hair
me.
on my.
I'm just trying to give you some advice.
It is about you, because I come into your studio. I'm trying to get on with a serious show here. I'm trying to discuss the issues. All you do is insult me. You're trying to say I've got a very fat face, which is not true.
I'm saying it just made you look fatter.
I would say your face is fatter than mine.
It might be, but that's not the point. The point is that if you're going to do any more television work up there, you should do something about what kind of shirt you wear, or wear a different jacket. It might take away from your face, basically, so people can look at something else.
And would you expect me to wear this jacket and tie and shirt while I'm putting a football through a tyre hanging off? You can wear
one of those jumpers. I
think I'm going to ask David, our producer out there, to take a picture of each of us after I finish tonight, to put them up onto a social networking system and ask for a vote, right? A vote from our listeners to find out who exactly they think has got the most gross face of the two of us.
Well, I don't think anybody will be interested
I'm
in
not
that.
saying mine is not a bit gross, but yours is more gross by a mile. By a mile.
Well, we can let anybody else be the judge of that. But let's get back to this penalty taking, because
Yes.
if it's at half-time, presumably you're going up there, at the behest, as you said earlier in the week, of the chairman, and you're going to be entertained there.
Yes.
It's going to put a bit of a cramp in your style, isn't it?
Excuse me. I have purchased a seat at Stevenage to watch the game versus Everton. That was the starting point in my relationship with Stevenage.
No,
okay?
I know that. But you're
On
going to
the
have lunch
back
and
of
stuff,
that,
aren't you?
sorry?
Are you going to have lunch there?
No.
No lunch? No food at all?
Do you have lunch at 5:30 in the evening normally?
No, before the game you'll have lunch, presumably.
And what time would you normally have lunch?
Well, any time between 1 and 3.
And the game kicks off at 5:30.
Yeah.
What would I do then between 1 and 5:30 if I went there
Well,
for
you
lunch?
just hang around.
What nutter would go to an event that starts at 5:30 and have lunch at 1? Do you want 3 or 4 hours drinking before you?
Well, that's what you
see the
normally
game?
do.
I
I mean, that's my point is that, before the kick-off of the penalty shootout thing, you're going to not be able to drink, are you? Because you can't do it if you've had a couple of glasses of wine.
Well, no, I feel the completely the opposite. I feel that I may be emboldened by a small drop of sherry or something like that.
So what time are you getting there then?
What time am I getting to Stevenage? Well, what's that going to do with it? I don't understand this.
Well, I want to know whether you're having lunch or not. You seem to be evading the question.
I will not be having lunch, no.
Okay.
No, I might have lunch somewhere else and then go to the ground for about 4 o'clock or something like that, 3:30, 4. But I wouldn't turn up somewhere at 3:30 or 4 o'clock and say, right, I'll have lunch now, thank you very much, before the event.
Okay, so...
Nobody in their right mind would.
So you're going to have a couple of glasses of wine, then you're going to go onto a football pitch, which is going to be a bit slippery because it's going to be probably raining. And are you going to wear football boots?
I've got a special pair of boots.
Have you?
They are Mr. Alan Brazil's boots.
Really?
And he last wore them in the UEFA Cup final in 1982.
How come you've got them?
They were donated to me as a gift after I scored my penalty. Is
that what you wore at Old Trafford then?
Yes, it is, yeah.
All
yeah.
right. Why don't you just buy a pair of football boots?
Well, why should I when I've got a pair that's already got stardust sprinkled all over them? And by the way, I've had to go to Bournemouth to recover them because my mother keeps them in a glass case in her house in Bournemouth with a picture of me scoring the penalty at Old Trafford above the case. And to her, it's like a shrine. It's like a
Did
monument.
you tell her that you actually lost the penalty shootout at Manchester?
No, I didn't. I won it. I told you. I beat Alvin
you
Martin.
lost it 3-2.
No, I didn't.
That's what I'm informed.
Utter balderdash. Utter balderdash. I won it easily because Alvin, who had a son who was a goalkeeper, I think his name's
still
David.
has a son who's a goalkeeper.
Well, of course he has, yeah, but it was then. Said to him, look, Dad, if you put it, to the left and high, goalkeepers can't get it. Alvin put to the left and high, but too high, hit the bar and came back. So I won.
Yeah, he missed it, but as a result, the team didn't lose.
No,
it was
no.
3-2.
No, that's
I've
not
got a picture of you here
No.
making your illustrious shot. You look very good, actually, in the Manchester United shirt.
Well, unfortunately, I had to wear a United shirt, and Everton fans have never let me forget that. Stevenage have given me the concession to be able to wear my Everton shirt signed by the Everton team on Saturday.
Are you going to wear shorts as well?
Of course, yeah.
So where are you going to change? And you're going to go into the Everton changing room?
No, in the referees' room.
All right.
We half timers always change in the.
I thought no one was allowed in the referees' room during the game.
Well, I'm not going to nick his wallet, am I? I'm not going to nick the ref's wallet. I'm quite a trustworthy
No, it's not about
person.
that. It's about influencing the referee. You might
Oh,
talk to him
yeah,
about
oh, yeah.
something that's happened during the first half and upset
really?
the whole kind of scenario.
Oh, yes. No. You see, you don't understand football. I will be changing 10 minutes before the end of the first half.
Right.
So that when the referee and the players come off into the tunnel, I will already be there, changed, ready to go on. So I won't even see the ref, will I?
Well, does he know you're going to be using the referee's changing room?
Well, that's down to the officials at Stevenage to sort that out, and I'm sure they will. They're good guys, So
you're going to miss the last 10 minutes of the first half then, by the sounds of it?
No, I wouldn't expect so.
Well, you are going to miss it if you go into the changing room 10 minutes before the end of the first half.
Believe it or not, mate, we have monitors in this modern age of football coverage.
Are you sure? In Stevenage?
Of course they do. Of course they do. Stevenage are a good club. They're in, this is not a non-league club. This is a first division club, and it's a nice ground, the Lamex. I've been there, I've seen it, and all.
Yeah, you've been up there a couple of times. Well, I was looking at the other thing I was going to ask you about.
Yes.
You were talking about the magic of the FA Cup and how great it's going to be and how excited you are, and you talked about going to games at Chester like you did the other day with me.
Yes.
And then you said the great thing about these games is people bring their bobble hats and their rattles.
Well,
I mean, does anybody have a rattle anymore?
Well, I agree with you that I've never seen anybody with a rattle at a football ground for about the last 35 or 40 years. I totally
Maybe you
agree
could bring one. Have you got an antique rattle you could bring along?
I have got a rattle.
It just goes...
Yeah. No, I've got a rattle.
Have you?
In fact, I wish I'd brought my rattle in tonight. Now, if I knew you were going to bring it up and try and mock me about it, I'd said to you, well, here is my rattle, and it's my ceremonial rattle, which sometimes when I'm doing speeches at football dinners and all that kind of stuff, I do take my rattle and I pretend to be a sort of, a dopey little sort of cranky kid. You know what I mean?
You're not really acting that, are you? I mean, that's not so much of a stretch for you.
That is a bit harsh. It's a bit harsh coming on top of the fact that I've invited you to see Everton versus Spurs.
Yes, you have.
At Spurs.
Yes, and that will be very exciting.
And you've agreed to come.
I have.
Yeah.
I have.
And so...
And we're having lunch there, aren't we?
We are having lunch there.
So you'll get there a little bit earlier.
Yeah, we'll get there a bit earlier. And I know you're going to be laughing on that day and making out that I'm a cranky kid with a rattle. I don't think so, because you're going to be in a very smart box.
Well, if you bring your rattle...
Well, I won't be bringing my rattle, will I? I might bring my bobble out, though, because, I mean, simply to distance myself from you and maybe apologise to the rest of the guests in the box we're going into that I'm not really your friend.
Now, while we're on the subject of Everton, right, one last thought for you, because Ross Barkley may be going to Chelsea, I was reading yesterday. Do you think there's any truth in that?
Well, only if he goes to the Flower Show, and I'm not sure when the Flower Show is. Is it normally in May or April?
It's in the summer, usually, isn't it?
Summer,
like August.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know he was, a horticulturist fan, but if he is, that's the only time we'll be going to Chelsea, believe me.
Are you sure about that?
Absolutely certain.
OK. Mike Porky Parry and myself, Mike Graham, have got lots more to talk about, and we'll be doing it next.
Today you and I are not the same. You say you like the sun, I like the rain. So before we go do it all again, you better catch your own train.
This is Talk Sports Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. He is Mike Parry. We are the two Mikes. There will be, of course, an iTunes podcast up a little bit later on. And this weekend, of course, I'll be watching an awful lot of football. The magic of the FA Cup is going to be a bit better. But I'm also going to have another go at flying that plane as well that you bought me because now that I've worked out...
Which FA Cup tie are you going to, by the way?
I'm not going to any. I said I'm watching a lot of it on the TV, and I'll be listening to.
But you're not going to
Talk Sport commentary. No, I'm not going to any FA Cup.
Well, the biggest football weekend of the year, the Fulton and the FA Cup. You're not going.
Yeah, no, I can't.
No, why is that?
Because I've got to look after my kids. I've got to make sure that
you had
all
the
is
wife
well.
to do that.
I've got to check the goldfish are still alive. Got to do all that. I've got to I've got a lot of responsibilities. It's all right for you. You're a single man. You have no responsibilities apart from to yourself, which is why technically you're quite a selfish guy. You don't have to worry about anybody else. I have to worry about lots of other people who
I've got
rely on me.
Responsibilities.
Yeah,
I've got people who rely on me.
Yeah, but you haven't got a family. You haven't got children to worry about. And if you just keep going off to football matches and saying, I'll see you, in a couple of weeks' time, they don't like it very much.
Extended family. Listen, mate. By the way, Malky Mackay is on the Breakfast Show tomorrow. Is that right? Because I heard you
with Alan Brazil.
Right. Why do people in Scotland have such weird names? I mean, is Malky a real name or is it Michael?
Well, I imagine it's short for Malcolm, isn't it?
Well, I don't
Malcolm's
know.
not a particularly odd name.
But there's some really weird names. I went out with a girl once, and she was Scottish, and her name was Shuna.
Shuna.
I think that's a great name.
Not Shona.
No, Shuna. Seuna. Shuna. And marvellous girl, and I met down in London, but I went back to, her roots in Scotland, in Stirling, okay? And she was an extremely curvaceous girl. She was
a bit on the heavy side. You mean?
No, not at all. Completely opposite. She was very curvaceous. And the point of my story is this: that until I actually got to Scotland, I didn't really get to know her. And what happened was, it was somewhere around Stirling, right? And we were driving home after we'd been in the pub for a while, and I would never.
Who was a designated driver in this particular scenario?
Well, she was.
Oh, right, okay.
She was. And I would never advocate drink driving.
Of course not.
Ever, whatsoever.
No.
but during the course of a couple of hours, she might have had, I don't know, a couple of halves of cider or something like that. Anyway, we got stopped by a cop. And, it's from, like, the Highlands and Islands police force or something like that. You know
That's
what I mean?
unusual, because Sterling's not in the Highlands and Islands. He must have been on a secondment.
Yeah, or something, yeah.
Sterling's in Stirlingshire. It's like smack bang in the middle of the country.
Oh, is it? Right, OK. Well, whatever. And anyway, policeman stopped her, and the policeman said, "Excuse me, have you been drinking?" And she said, "Well, you've just been to the pub socially and just had a drink." Now, I didn't know that in this country in those days, it's probably about, I don't know, a few years ago, obviously, instead of the breathalyzer, they said, "We want you to walk down the white line in the middle of the road." That's what she said to Shuna. What? No.
Well, they can do that as well as giving you a breath test.
In Scotland?
Yeah, well, anywhere, I think.
I don't think they do it in England. But anyway, the point of my story is, she got out the car and she was dressed very nicely, and she had a tight top on and a pair of jeans or something like that, and fortunately, like trainers. And she said, "Officer, not only can I walk down that white line, I could do handstands down it for the next 100 yards if you'd like me to." And
presumably that wasn't required. Very nice accent, by the way. Not that bad for a Sterling accent.
Yeah. And he said, "Well, go on then." And she did. And then she revealed to me when she got back in the car, because the cops were so impressed. They said, "Oh, that's a problem. Off you go." She was actually a former gymnast in the Scottish Commonwealth Games
Goodness
team.
gracious me.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that amazing?
And what's this got to do with her name, by the way?
Well, it's just that when I heard the name Malky, I thought, why do all people in Scotland have such strange names?
It is definitely short for Malcolm. Well, I suppose as well with people in the football business, they
I
tend to
suppose so.
make nicknames out of some of their longer names, don't they?
I suppose so. Anyway, I digressed. You were telling me something
Well, I'm
much
saying
more
this
interesting.
weekend, one of the things I'm going to try and do is get that plane that you got me
going to a
very
football
kindly.
match.
I'm not going to go to a football match, no, but I won't miss any of it either.
Right.
The point is that I'm going to try and fly that plane, so I'll let you know on Monday how that goes.
This is the plane I bought your boys.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, which you claimed that you'd bought for them.
Yes. Well, it's too complicated to go over all that again.
No,
but
but
the point is,
you admit that you tried to pass it off as your present.
I did pass it off as my present. I've
Even
got
though I bought
no
it.
problem with that. No,
Yeah,
I've got no problem
and
with that.
I'm not going to reveal to everybody how much it costs, because, of course, that would be in
Well, it's only
genuine.
made of polystyrene. Couldn't have been that much, could it?
Well, you'd be surprised how much polystyrene costs these days, particularly when it's got a motor in it, and the motor's got a remote control base unit, and you're supposed to put an aerial on the plane to make sure it flies properly instead of sending it off the ground.
Well, that was my mistake. Yeah, that was what
exactly.
I didn't do.
Crashing it into trees.
So I'm going to try and make it work this weekend. So I'll let you know.
Yeah.
But let's talk about
I wouldn't hold my breath, listeners, in trying to make it work. Yeah, go on.
listeners. Is that your new sort of way of addressing people?
Yeah.
I thought of you the other day. I don't know if you saw this story in the paper about this heartbroken granddad who lost something like 70,000 quid because he fell in love with a woman in Thailand who he thought he was going to marry.
What a dope.
And I presume he met her online.
What a complete
the
dope.
tale of woe from this guy is unbelievable. £70,000, and he now says that he's more or less bankrupt because it turns out
Why
that
did he lose
she was
70
already
grand?
she was already married. Well, this is what happened, right? He somehow met her online and sent her first of all £400 because she said that her kids were her sister's kids were orphans, right?
Yeah.
Then she tells him that she loves him during a Skype call. This is about 6 months later.
What, a phone call?
Yeah, she asked him to marry her.
She's Thailand, is she?
She's
From
in Thailand, yeah.
And what's his name?
He's talking to her on Skype.
Yeah.
Terry Lake, his name is.
So it's
62 years old.
Oh, Towie, I love you, Towie. I love you, Towie.
Well, I don't
Send
know if
more
she should
money.
be making fun. Yeah, well,
Send more money.
wait until you hear the next bit. February 2012, she asked him to marry her. April 2012, he gets a phone call from one of her friends who says that she's in a coma and she needs £20,000 for the treatment. You shouldn't be laughing at this, by the way, because this guy's completely falling for it, right? He then, in July, he goes to Thailand, and then on his return, he wires some more cash to her to buy a car.
Well, he goes to Thailand to see her. Did he see her?
Yeah, he went to see her, because she'd come out of the coma. So he thought, I better go and see if she's all right, And then he comes back, he starts divorce proceedings with his wife, which costs him another, 60 grand or
What,
something.
his real wife back in England?
His real wife, because he decides he's now in love with this woman. Then, about 3 or 4 months later, she says that she's developed a tumour and she needs £8,000.
Sorry, is this another phone call? Oh, Towie.
Yeah,
big
don't
tumour.
Don't keep doing the accent.
Big tumour.
£8,000, and then he sends her £11,000. He says she spotted a really nice engagement ring. I mean, it just goes
can't
on
believe
and
it.
on and on. And then, unfortunately,
Terry, big engagement ring.
Unfortunately, for
£11
just stop
grand.
doing that. Unfortunately for him,
Yeah.
in September of the same year, he
Yeah.
discovers that on Facebook she's got a separate account with a completely different name, and it turns out that she's actually married, and he never hears from her again.
And that's it.
That's it. That's the end of the story.
Was he not going to go back to Thailand and try and claim his money
Well,
back?
I don't think he can because she spent it all, and he says he now kips on floors. But the reason I thought of you actually was,
Well, he lost all his money.
he's lost all of his money, and
What
he's
a
absolutely
complete dope.
he's shocked and stunned.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's
Yeah,
loads of.
I'd be quite shocked and stunned
there's so
if I
many-
was that stupid.
Well-
I'd go to a stupid counsellor and say, "Can you please remove the stupid?"
Well, you'd be
idea in
amazed
my
how
head."
many men fall for these Russian dating sites and these ones in Thailand as well.
It is unbelievable.
They all get,
Didn't,
they all
didn't
get
Canoe
conned.
Boy get caught with a Ukrainian?
I think he
lady?
did, yeah. I think he did.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was because you was on the search for the first Mrs. Parry. Surely
Yeah.
you must have thought about having some kind of internet dating experience.
Never.
Have you never done that?
Never. Wouldn't even dream of it. Honestly,
Why not?
Would not even dream of it. Do you know what? When I was a much younger man, I worked in Redditch, which is a town in the West Midlands near Birmingham, with a mate of mine, and he was always desperate to find a girlfriend and all that. And he actually answered an advert in a local paper. I think it was called the Redditch Indicator, and it was saying
Like Lonely Hearts or something like that.
Oh, it wasn't even that innocent. Mature woman, happy to entertain at home and all that. And he said, she must be a divorcee or something. Sounds good for me. I said, don't be ridiculous. What do you know? I said, she's a semi sort of working girl. It goes around there, and you wouldn't believe it. I mean, there's a woman there. She's high on cider and cigarettes. She's got 4 children running around, and literally asked him for 25 quid for, seriously, 25 quid to spend like half an hour with her upstairs.
In her company, yeah.
In her company
Bizarre.
upstairs, where her 4 kids are there. Unbelievable. I mean, would I ever fall for that? You are mad.
Well,
You're
more and more
joking.
people are doing internet dating, but maybe we'll bring this subject up at another time because we've got to go now. We've got loads more to talk about. Mike Parry and me, Mike Graham, back next.
Insane in the membrane. Insane in the membrane. Insane in the membrane.
This is Talk Sport Extra Time. We are the two Mikes. I'm Mike Graham. He is Mike Parry. And just going back to Stevenage for a moment, I presume you're not
Yes.
going to drive up there, are you? Do you know how to get there by public transport?
Well, I'll go public transport because if I do take a slight refresher before I put the ball through the tyre that's hanging off the bar,
Yes.
which is one of my main...
How many goes do you get at that, by the way?
I don't know. I haven't worked that out yet. I was asked if I would do it, and I said I will against some top professionals. You won't believe this, but Joey Barton is threatening to go up against
Is he?
me. Joey's there as a pundit for a broadcasting organisation, not sure which one, and he's saying that he might even volunteer to
And
do
you
it
and he
himself.
have had a few sort of verbal exchanges in the past,
Not
haven't you?
really. Pretty even-handed sort of stuff, bit of banter, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, that will be interesting
Yeah.
because I was going to ask you how the car's going, because we haven't had an update on your car,
Well,
the
Mike, as
one
you
that
probably-
smokes and
as-
steams and
That's
has
right,
no
yeah.
tyres and all that.
I haven't had much luck with the Merc, and what happened today was I was in a road in Surrey, right, and I heard this incredible crunch. It was like this. I'll give you the noise. Like that. You get that
Really?
noise? Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like you're hitting your elbows on the table.
Yeah, I was trying to demonstrate a Mercedes wheel going into a hole about literally 6 inches deep.
You didn't see the hole?
Well, you can't see these holes, Mike. This is the point. When it's raining and
That's true.
it's a bit grey,
Was it
and that
dark?
stuff, dark and all that, and bang into the hole. And so I went past it, and I thought I'm going to get out and find out what that hole is. And it looked as though the pothole might have literally been created at the moment my wheel went
Yeah.
into it, because all the rubble was around the hole. You
Well,
see
all
what I
this
mean?
rain, you see, is making a
Well,
lot
that's right.
creating a lot of damage on a lot of streets.
But anyway, it scraped the side of my wheel, and it's a big nuisance. In the old days, right, when we used to have cars like a Ford Escort, something like that, you could put what you might call those things you could put on the wheels. You could
I don't
put-
know.
Well, you
Hubcaps?
Hubcaps. That's the word, Mike. That's the word I was looking for. Hubcaps. You could put them
Well,
on.
your
and
car
take
must
them
have
off.
hubcaps, surely.
No, the wheel is solid. There's no hubcap on it. You look at any modern car, and the wheels are... I mean, the selling point of some modern cars are like 18-inch alloys or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that, right? So there's no
So
hubcaps
it's all in one
on it.
piece?
Yeah, it's all in one piece,
Right.
absolutely.
So nobody can nick the hubcaps, I suppose.
And they cost about 600 quid, by the way. And certainly on the Merc, you have like a special wing nut thing with a key, and you've got to keep the key in a secret place in the car, so if anybody breaks in, they can't find the key and nick the wheels. I mean, that
Why,
sounds
if they
really-
broke into the car, would they nick the wheels? If they broke into the car, surely they'd just drive it away, wouldn't they?
I I
What would be
would
the
have
point
thought
of
so. I don't know.
Because in days gone by, also, I remember this happened to my sister. She came out to get her car one day, and it was
Yeah.
up on bricks, and people were just taking it because they had kind of sporty wheels on. It just took all the wheels off.
What city was that in?
It was in London.
No.
Yeah, it was when she still lived in
Why would
London.
anybody do that?
Because
I can't
because the wheels are valuable.
Well, I tell you, I had a worse experience when I was about 17, got my first car. It was a Ford Anglia. And what we did is we put these
It's like the one in Harry Potter, isn't it?
Yeah, a bit like that, yeah. And we put these hubcap things on, but I didn't attach them properly. So I found a young lady to impress, got her in the driving seat, in the passenger seat. I was in the driving seat,
Right.
obviously, because I was driving. And the problem was, for the first time ever, we came to a sleeping policeman, as they called him in those days. They called them traffic...
Speed bump.
Yeah, a speed bump, yeah. They call them traffic calmers these days, something like that. Anyway, I didn't see this thing, and I knew I didn't want to brake anyway, because I didn't know what it was. And we went over it, and as we did, and went boing, so all of a sudden, 4 hubcaps were rolling up the road faster than the car. They all came off. And it was very embarrassing.
So this can't happen now, then?
Well, no, it can't happen because the wheels are all in one piece.
Ah.
But anyway, getting back to the potholes, mate, it's a massive problem in this country. And this happened in Stockbroker Belt, Surrey. Now, Surrey is supposed to be the richest county in the richest motoring country in the world, which is the UK.
Well, they
right?
probably collect an awful lot of council tax from people, don't they?
Well, but the thing is, when I've made investigations before about, why aren't you repairing the potholes? They say, we can't repair the potholes, Mr. Parry, because people like you...
Potholes? Are you saying it with an American accent?
Yes, I don't know. I said
Is
that.
that somebody
Potholes.
American that works in the
Potholes.
council?
Yeah.
Potholes.
Yeah. We can't repair the potholes because people like you keep bringing us up and suing us for damaging your car, and all the money we've got in our budget to repair roads now goes to people like you. And
But it's not really their responsibility, is it? Is it not the responsibility of the Department of Transport who collect
Highways Agency,
Yeah,
I don't know.
they collect
I don't
all
know.
the road tax, they
I don't know.
collect all the petrol tax and all that.
Well, it seems they seem to have some sort of fiscal responsibility for it, and the point is, they accuse me of being, the problem is, driving cars like yours, Mr. Parry, a Jaguar and a Mercedes, means that when you go into a pothole, like it's my fault, we have to pay you huge amounts of money
So
to
you're going to
repair...
sue them then?
Yeah, of course I am, yeah. To repair your wheels. So what they're basically saying is that, poor people who drive rubbish cars with cheap wheels are good, but people like me, who've worked for, decades and decades and decades to be able to afford a
Tirelessly.
decent car, tirelessly, are bad people because I drive around on the roads in Surrey, the richest county in this country, in a nice car. Surrey destroy my wheels because they let potholes appear all over the roads all the
So
time.
what's actually happened to your
and
wheel?
I'm a villain.
Then? What's actually happened to your wheel then? Has it been knocked out of kilter or something?
No, it's been scratched. And I don't like having a
Scratched?
scratched wheel. Yeah, no.
Yeah,
but
well, I mean, if that's the only
Yeah.
damage, you can't
Yeah.
really sue them for very much for that, can you?
I have to replace the wheel, and the wheel costs about £600.
But if you talk to cab drivers in London, they'll
Hmm.
tell you that they have to get their wheels realigned every so often, like once a year or maybe twice a year, because of
Because
all
of
the
potholes.
bumps and
It's
and
outrageous.
And it's
It is utterly outrageous. And you know what? One of these days, when you drive a car, in addition to having third-party fire and theft insurance, you're going to have pothole insurance without a shadow of a doubt. Do you know what, mate? You won't believe this. I read the other day, the sales pitch for a car on a double-page spread in a very prestigious newspaper, what we'd call a broadsheet, big one, and it actually said reinforced engineering anti-pothole. I mean, they're making cars now
That's why so many people drive around these four-wheel drive things, because, they're not bothered by potholes.
Anti-pothole. What's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
It's called what's it called?
Vortex?
No. The thing that the wheels are on is the
Road?
springs. No springs. What's it called?
suspension.
Suspension. Anti-pothole suspension. How about that?
Yeah, because if you don't have that, it basically all gets knocked out of kilter and it costs you an awful lot of money. Maybe you just get a cheap car to drive around in.
Well, I've thought about that. I have got a cheap car, actually, down on the coast, which I leave in my parking bay.
Have you?
In case somebody tries to park in there when I'm not there. And so when
So what do you do with it when you get there?
Well, I just move it out of the way and leave it outside.
I bet you park it in somebody else's spot.
No, I don't. No, I don't do that because they'd have the same problem as I've got now. No, it's a cheap blue Jag, and I think it costs me £1,700.
Don't you have to road tax it and everything?
No, because I never take it on the road.
Yeah, but if you park it on the road outside, then you have to road tax it.
No, you go out of my place and you've been there and you go into a lorry park next door and I just leave it in the lorry park while I'm there. The only difficulty is if you don't drive a car on a regular basis, the battery goes flat. So I've got a mate there who's got one of these, little gizmos and he gives it to me.
What, a charger?
a charger, and it starts up, but it only goes like 300 yards.
Very complicated thing to do just to keep somebody from parking in your space.
No, I don't think so, because...
Why don't you just get one of those posts that goes up and down, so that when you're not there, the post is up and you can't unlock it and they can't park there?
I think there's some restriction on actually, digging into the ground or something like that, or whatever. But anyway, look, the point is, if everybody behaved themselves and didn't park in my spot, I wouldn't have to have, a second car, which I never drive, just to park there. But I didn't want to, dent my reputation by buying some old banger like, sort of cars that you drive around in.
Yeah, well, you see, again, it comes back to your kind of snobbery. Well, maybe what you should do, actually, because if you're worried about finding a place to park, why don't you get one of those blue badges? Because you probably qualify for one, wouldn't you, if you've had, major heart surgery? Don't you qualify for one?
I do, actually. And now this is no joke. Funny you should say that. For the last 10 years, I could have applied for and got a disabled parking badge because I, at one time, had critical...
because you couldn't walk very far, because that's why a lot of people get...
Critical health care. Yeah. And I had acute heart failure, and I was unable to walk more than 50 yards. In fact, when I first came back to TalkSport, believe it or not, I had to drive my car 2 stations in towards London, because that's where I could park closest to the station, to be able to walk up to the station and get on the train, and then when it came back the other way, walk off again, because I couldn't walk more than 50 yards,
Why couldn't you just drive it into London and park it on a double yellow line? Because you can do that with a blue badge.
Well, because I utterly refused to... you won't believe it. You won't believe it. On Wednesday, I came and did the old papers, with Alan Brazil and David.
David Ginola.
Great friend of mine, David. What a sophisticated
Has he invited you out for lunch yet?
Well, we will socialise, and we do occasionally have a...
So no, then, in other words.
No, we do occasionally have a glass of red Franche, red wine. Red wine, yeah.
Yes.
And but you know what? I always keep forgetting to do, pay the congestion charge. And I've got another bill this week for 65 quid for forgetting to pay the congestion charge, which is £10 a day or £12 a day on the second day. I will forget to pay the 65 quid, because I always do.
Why don't you just give it to me and I can tear it up for you, like you did with my parking ticket?
Well, I helped you out there because you've never paid that.
No, I did. I had to pay it. But I had to then chase up the people to find out what the number was.
The 65 quid, because I'll forget to pay that as well.
Well, why will you forget to pay?
Well, I just keep forgetting to do it.
Why don't you just pay it while you're here?
Well, you can't.
You can pay it online, surely.
I don't know how to do that. And that's
learn how to do it.
That 65 becomes 130.
How else will you pay it? Send them a cheque?
No, you ring them up and give them a number. You give them the credit card number.
Just do it online.
You oaf, honestly. What are you trying to make out?
Most normal people do everything online now. You don't have to talk to anybody. You don't have to wait on the phone.
I have utterly refused throughout my life to give my credit card numbers onto a computer, because I believe that people will hack into it and steal everything I've got. I'm determined.
Yeah. And they won't do that if you're talking over the phone to somebody.
I don't download music off a computer, because it means you've got to give them your credit card number, and I utterly refuse. I get my nephew to do it with his credit card, right? And no.
Everything around your life is basically making use of other people.
No.
You've got a guy that drives your car for you, 2 spaces, just so that you can be not inconvenienced when you get down to your second house.
And why not?
You use your nephew's credit card to download stuff because you're scared that you might get hacked.
Yeah,
but you don't care if he gets hacked.
I pay him.
Unbelievable. You send people out to buy presents for other people.
Anyway, the point of what you're saying to me about getting this blue card is because I said to you the other day that I know somebody who is now told they can have one of those blue cards, not because they're infirm, not because they have any sort of illness, because they are basically fat.
Overweight,
obese. But you know what they call people these days, Mike? You're not allowed.
They call them morbidly obese, don't they?
No. You are not allowed to use fat, obese, or anything. You are a bariatric victim.
Bariatric victim?
Yeah, honestly.
What does that mean?
Well, it means you're very, very fat. It means you're a fatso. It means you're a fat as getters. But in medical terms now, it is you're a bariatric victim.
These are people who presumably qualify for some kind of gastric band surgery, isn't it?
I don't know, maybe. But in car parking terms, they now allow bariatric victims, i.e. very fat people who stuff too much food down their face and drink too much.
Well, some of them, of course, have got glandular problems, haven't they?
Very few. That was always the thing at school, wasn't it? Don't laugh at the fat kid in the class
Slow
at the
metabolism.
Back. Yeah, because he's got glandular problems. I've never met anybody who's got a glandular problem who's fat. I've met plenty of people who are fat because they're greedy, they stuff food in their mouth, they eat too many sweets.
You're not exactly slim, are you?
Well, I'm not exactly fat either, am I? Not exactly fat.
Well,
right?
I wouldn't say you were fat, no.
How many miles do you think I walked today?
How many miles?
Yes.
I've no idea.
5.
5 miles.
5 today, and that was a short walk, okay? Short walk for me, 1.25.
Well, why don't you lose any weight then?
No, mate, you don't understand. At this stage of your life, you have to get the metabolism equation absolutely right, and mine's absolutely right. If I didn't walk 5 miles a day, I'd be your size. I mean, you know, I
You'd
would
never be my size.
Yes.
I'm about 4 inches taller than you.
no, mate. I mean in width.
I see.
Right? You know,
Right.
I'd have to go to special shops and get special clothes.
So
you know.
you walk 5 miles a day
I'd-
in order to maintain that amazing physique of yours.
I'd have to warn
Extraordinary.
I'd have to warn a
I'm
black.
surprised you don't get somebody to walk for you.
I would have to warn a black cab driver before I got in. Listen, mate, I am, bariatric. Is it okay to get in the back? And have you got, reinforced suspension for your potholes on the back wheels as well as the front? Because I'm getting in the back. Okay.
Such an unpleasant man at times, aren't you? But, the point is, loads and loads of people have got disabled badges, of course, and the thing with disabled badges is that nobody really knows for sure who's driving the car either, because quite often you'll see people getting out of disabled badge cars, and they appear to be quite able to walk. They don't appear to be fat, and that's the kind of the problem. There's thousands, tens of thousands of these things.
These fat people, right? These fat as getuses, as the
I
Italian.
don't think you should be quite so rude about them.
That's the Italian expression. Sorry, the Latin expression. I did study Latin at school, by the way, so I'm entitled to use that.
We'll give you a Latin test one of these days.
Yeah, fine.
We'll give you one on Monday, shall we?
Yeah. V, vendi, vetus, all that kind
That
of stuff.
doesn't sound like Latin to me.
I know all
Sounds
that.
like pig Latin.
Anyway, what I'm saying is, if they're of that class, then instead of getting a blue badge which puts them nearer to the door, they should have the equivalent of a yellow badge, which puts them 1.5 miles away from the door, so that these indolent, overweight bariatrics have to walk to the supermarket and walk back with all their shopping, heavy as it is. In that case, they'd lose weight by parking them closer to the door. All you're going to do is give them the excuse never to exercise.
I
It's an
don't
outrage.
think that's ever going to catch on. I agree with you that there might be too many of these badges being given out and not enough parking spaces for people who don't
totally
have
agree.
them. But I mean, you can't force people to do anything like that. I think that's unnatural.
What about the mother and child spaces you see in all these car parks?
Well, those are necessary, actually.
They're always
because-
empty.
No, they're not.
They're
Not empty wherever I go.
They're always empty wherever I go. There's never
Well,
a
do you
mother.
shop at strange times of the day or something?
No.
Like during the school run or something?
No, if you go to an out of town house.
The reason they have mother and child spaces is because if you've got children, like, the other spaces are so
I
small.
cannot see the reason on a lone and windy day.
Dear me.
No, we don't know. That's a Paul Simon song.
Mother and
The
child
mother
reunion.
and child reunion.
Yeah, I only just
is
recognised it.
only emotional. Well, you
But
should
the
know
reason
that.
they have the big spaces is because in the small spaces you can't open the door and get a baby out, and you can't open the door safely and get a child out. So
Yep.
that's why they need all that space.
Look, empathy, sympathy with a young woman.